Good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America in Washington. This is Live Talk. I am Kim Stube.
And I'm Marvelous Mhlanganya Huye in Washington, where I'm broadcasting from my home this Friday, October the 8th, 2020, because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about COVID-19, President Emerson Mnangagwa's State of the Nation address, the displacement of people in Mashonaland West, and other issues.
And on the health front, the Ministry of Health says one person died of COVID-19 in Zimbabwe yesterday and 89 tested positive for the coronavirus. According to the Ministry of Health, there are at the moment 4,631 deaths of people who have succumbed to COVID-19 in the country since the pandemic started last month.
The ministry reports that almost 3.2 million people have received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine and 2.4 million people their second dose.
And the ministry also reports that there are currently over 2,000 active cases of COVID-19 in Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe needs to vaccinate 10 million people for the country to reach herd immunity.
In USA, the Voice of America reports that there is a mandatory vaccination program of school children in California. Some angry people are resisting the program.
Tonight, we are also going to be discussing President Emerson Mnangagwa's State of the Nation address. Mnangagwa told Parliament yesterday that Zimbabwe's economy will grow by 7.8% this year. And he has come under attack from various groups who are questioning this growth.
As indicated, we are also looking at the eviction of people from Waterloo Farm in Mashonaland West. Some villagers are now stranded. Yebo kambe zilwanda balinjani lapha khona endaweni zonke zomhlaba ezijiyeneyo. Namhlanje ke ku-Live Talk sikhuluma nge-COVID-19 lokunye njalo okuqhakambelana lokwenzakala kwele Zimbabwe. Siyabona ukuthi ke khona manje nxa sikhuluma nge-COVID-19 kulabantu ke abafika kulomuntu oyedwa nxa ngakube kanjalo obule yi-COVID-19 izolo wathi abayi-89 ngabantu abahlolwe batholakala belomkhuhlane lo. Nxa sisikhangela futhi siya phambili kulabantu abayi-131,523 asebahlolwa eZimbabwe batholakala bele-COVID-19 kusukela nyakenye. Kuzobuya ke abayi-124,685 asebaphepha kumkhuhlane lo. Nxa kuyiwa phambili njalo kulabantu abafika 4,631 asababulawa yi-COVID-19. Kubizwa ukuthi ke asebejovwe amajekiseni atshiyeneyo bafika 3.2 million asebehlatshwe okwakuqala amajekiseni lawo. Asebehlatshwe ke okwesibili bafika 2.4 million. So ke kukhanya ngazani ke abantu bayahlatshwa sibili lapha lalapha, kodwa ke uhulumende uthi ungani sebebalutshwana abantu abahlatshwayo. Kuzobuya ke abantu okuthiwa ngama-active cases ye-COVID-19 kule 2,207. So kunjalo ke zulukandaba. Sibe sisithi singene ke kolunye udaba esikhuluma ngalo namhlanje. Siyabona ukuthi ke umongameli Emerson Mnangagwa izolo wethule umbiko wakhe oqhakathekileyo we-State of the Nation address. Saluphakulela okuningi ngalokhu. Kuzobuya ke kwele California khona ngale ngathi ke esabelweni seCalifornia kwele Melika sokuthiwa ke abantwana besikolo kumele behlatshwe amajekiseni. Kuthi kulabanye bathi kungani lokho akusoze kuhambe kuhle. Saphinda singene kudaba lwabantu abaxotshwa eWaterloo Farm khona ngale eMashonaland West. Siyazi ukuthi lina likubona njani konke lokho. Kunjalo ke Marvelous.
Kune avo vachangobva kupinda muchirungu chedu tinokuchingamidza ine mufaro nhasi nemusi wechishanu kudai October 8, 2021. Ini ndini Marvelous Mhlanganya uye ndiri kutefenyera ndiri kumba pamusoro pedenda rechirwere cheCovid-19. Nhasi pachirongwa chedu tichange tiri kutarisa zviri kuitika munyika pamusoro pechirwere ichi cheCovid-19 uyezve zvirongwa zvekubayiwa kwenhomba yeCovid-19. Titarisa zvakare zviri kuitika mune zvematongerwo enyika nezvimwewo. Tinoona kuti pari zvino bazi rezveutano rinozivisa kuti nezuro pane munhu mumwe chete akawanikwa achishaya kubva kudenda iri reCovid-19 uyezve vanhu 89 vakabatwa nedenda iri nezuro. Asi tichitarisa zviri kuitika pari zvino kubva denda iri ratanga muna March gore rapfuura pane vanhu 131,523 vawanikwa ivo vachibatwa nedenda iri. poitawo zvakare vanhu 124,685 vawanikwa ivo vachikunda denda iri mushure mekunge varibata. Totarisa kuti pane vanhu 4,631 vashayika kubva kudenda iri kubva ratanga muna March gore rapfuura. Tozotarisa chirongwa chekubayiwa vanhu cheCovid-19 tinoona kuti pane vanhu 3,000 vanodaudzira 3 million vawanikwa ivo vachibayiwa nhomba idzi dzeCovid-19, asi nyika yeZimbabwe inoda kuti ibaye vanhu vanodaudzira 10 million kuitira kuti vawanikwe ivo vachisvika pavanoti ivo herd immunity. Tozotarisa zvakare zviri kuitika panyaya aye yatingati makwarantine kana kuti malockdown. Tinoona kuti Zimbabwe, munyika yeZimbabwe, mutungamiri wenyika vakaudza ivo nyika kuti kwemavhiki maviri anotevera mitemo yelockdown icharamba iripo, asi mabhawa akuzovhurwa kune avo vanenge vakabayiwa nhomba yeCovid-19. Tozoona zvakare nyika yeBritain nezuro yakazivisa iyo kuti Zimbabwe yakabviswa pavanoti paye pared list, zvinoreva kuti kubva muvhiki rinotevera zvizvarwa zveZimbabwe zvinoda kufamba zvichienda kuZimbabwe zvinogona kuenda zvichizodzoka vasina ivo matambudziko. Asi tichange tiri kutarisa zvakare zvakabuda muparamende nezuro apo mutungamiri wenyika vaEmerson Mnangagwa vakawanikwa vachiparura yatingati gwaro ravo reState of the Nation kana kuti SONA, vachiti ivo upfumi hwenyika huri kuwanikwa ivo huchikura uyezve nepercentage inoita 7.8%, asi vari kuwanikwawo vachishorwa nevamwewo vachiti ivo aiwa upfumi hwenyika hwaondomuka uyezve pane zvimwewo zviri kuda kuonekwa nevanhu zvichishanduka panguva iyo ino. Takaona zvakare vaMorgan Komichi vebato reMDCT yavamonzura vachiti panewo zvavakafarira zvakataurwa nemutungamiri wenyika vaEmerson Mnangagwa mugwaro ravo iyi. Vakanyanyofarira vachitaura ivo kuti nyaya yedevolution vachiti zvakavafadza, asi pane zvimwe zvavaida kuonawo zvichigadziriswa pane nyaya yemitemo yemunyika. Tichatarisa zvakare zviri kuitika kunzvimbo yeMvuti uko kune Waterloo Farm muMashonaland West, uko tiri kuona kuti kune vanhu vakawanikwa ivo vachidzingwa papurazi iri reWaterloo vachinzi vari kugara papurazi iri zvisiri pamutemo. Saka vanhu ava vakadzingwa vari kutogara pari zvino mumigwagwa, uyezve tiri kuona pane madzimai vane vana vacheche, pana madzimai vamwe vakwegura nemhuri dziri ipapo panguva ino yeCovid-19, apo tiri kuona kuti vanhu vazhinji vari kunzi ivo vazvichengete, asi tiri kuona kuti panzvimbo iyi vanhu vakadzingwa kubva kuWaterloo Farm ava vari kuwanikwa ivo vakagara vakawanda vari panze, uyezve kana zvatingati zviye midziyo yavo yese iripo yakakandwa panze ipapo kuWaterloo Farm kuMashonaland West. Uyezve mutori wedu wenhau Nunurai Jena akakwanisa kunge achienda kunzvimbo iyoyi yeWaterloo Farm kumvuti, achitaura iye nevamwe vakawanikwa vachirasikirwa nemidziyo yavo panzvimbo iyoyi. Gibbs.
Yes, marvelous. Let's start with the California issue where there's some kind of mandatory vaccination program in California. So khonakale eCalifornia abantu sokumeti abantu ababo behlatshwa amajekiseni achiyeneyo. So we've got a guest today. He actually sent us some videos. So his name is Khanyisani Ncube. He is a human rights activist. Let's hear what he says about some of these kind of activities of actually maybe in quote unquote forcing kids to actually go for vaccination.
Khanyisani Ncube, isizalwane saseZimbabwe, ngiligqwetha lamalungelo oluntu, ngizinze kwele South Africa, yize okwamanje ngisaqhubekisela phambili izifundo zami zomthetho e-University of St. John's ekhona lapha eAmerica. Malunga nalodaba lwaseCalifornia, lamanye amazwe agqugquzela ukuthi abantwana besikolo bengamukelwa ezikoleni nxa bengahlatshelwanga umkhuhlane weCovid-19. Ngilemcijo emibili engifisa ukuthi ngiyenze. Umcijo wokuqala yikuthi ngicabanga ukuthi njengamazwe o njengabona labo abagqugquzela ukuthi abantwana babanjwe ngenkani bahlatshelwe umkhuhlane weCovid-19, ngicabanga ukuthi sesiginya singahlafunanga. Lokho ngikutshiso ngalezi zizathu. Okokuqala, abantu abadala abaningi abakayihlatshelwa i-COVID-19 sikhuluma njengamanje kwasibisa yona le California ungakhangela uzathola ukuthi abanye abadala endaweni ukuthi bathola ama-doses 2 or even lamabhusa wona la kukhulunywa ngawo uthola ukuthi umuntu omdala wenze i-dose A1 kuze kuzofika manje and siyakwazi ukuthi ilizwe lona leli lase-America i-COVID-19 iqothule kanjani kangakanani izibalo zakhona zihlasumulisa umzimba kodwa ubususithi uyakhangela uthola ukuthi abantu abadala abaningi abakahlatshelwa umkhuhlane we-COVID-19 endaweni ukuthi sigqugquze thathe wonke amandla wethu esilawo sithathe wonke umcebo wethu esilawo sigqugquzele abantu abadala esaziyo ngokwezibalo esike sazithola ngaphambilini ukuthi yibo abasengozini enkulu kakhulu yokuqothula isifo sona lesi ese-COVID-19 sisebenzise ama-resources wethu lapho ukugqugquzela lokho kodwa sesifuna ukuthi sithathe abantwana abangela mandla sibathathe sibafake lapho ngenkani ngekhanda sibangenise phakathi khona lapho ngicabanga ukuthi kuliphuthe elikhulu kufanele ukuthi yize sisizwa ukuthi ama-trends ungathi setshintsha kodwa into bekufanele ngabe siqala ngayo siyigqugquzele kakhulu ukuthi siqede kuqala ngabantu abadala odabeni lwe-COVID-19 okwesibili nanku ngokomthetho ukuthi sibone ukuthi umthetho welizwe elithile ngumthetho osebenzela abantu ngumthetho olamandla ngumthetho ofanele ube khona yikuthi sibone ukuthi umthetho walelo lizwe ubaphatha kanjani abantu abangela mandla masikhuluma ngabantu abangela mandla sikhuluma ngabantu asebebadala sebegugile abangasenelisi ukuthi bazivikele sikhuluma ngabantwana bona laba njengabona laba abanama 5 years to 11 years to 12 years yibo abantu esikhuluma ngabo bona labo ngicabanga ukuthi masizabathatha sibafake ngekhanda entweni abantu abadala abanengi abangathi basadonsela izinyawo zabo emuva ngicabanga ukuthi senza iphutha elikhulu kakhulu mhlawumbe sikwenza lokhu ngesizathu sokuthi siyabona ukuthi abakwazi ukuthi bazikhulumele abenelisi ukuthi bazulele kodwa okusalayo senza iphutha elikhulu kakhulu okwami ukugqugquzela ukuthi asiqaleni ngabantu abadala sibagqugquzele kakhulu ngoba siyazi ukuthi baba sengozini enkulu kakhulu yokulinyazwa yilolu bhubhane lwe-COVID-19 ngiyabonga.
There you are, marvelous. That is Kanyesani Ncube. Kanyesani Ncube is a human rights activist. He's based here in USA. He's actually doing studies right now. So he says it's very unfair to take kids for these vaccinations when there are some adults who are actually resisting these inoculations. So he's not happy at all. So he says there should be a way, out of this,
Mm-hmm. Aiwapo tiri kunzwa mumwe munyarikani wedu vari kutaura ivo pamusoro pedanho riri kutorwa nagavhena wemuno muamerica wekucalifornia akati iye vanhu vemudunhu ravo vanofanira kunge vana vechidiki vari kuenda kuchikoro vese vanofanira kunge vabayiwa nhomba yeCovid-19 otherwise havadzokeri kuzvikoro saka munyarikani wedu vari kutaura kuti havasi kufara nedanho iri rakatorwa sezvo vari kuti vamwewo vechikuru imo muno muamerica havasati vabayiwa nhomba idzi dzeCovid-19 saka hazvina kunyatsonaka zvezvo zviri kutyora kodzero dzevana kuti vafofokedzerwe kuti vabayiwe nhomba iyi yeCovid-19 asi aya maonero avo.
Yes, let's hear the other version of his argument. He's actually saying a lot, concerning this issue.
Kanyesani Ncube, I
think I brought the wrong kind of tape. Let's get the right one in motion. I think it's the English tape. So let's see.
My name is Ben National. I am also a human rights lawyer practicing as such in South Africa. At the present moment, I'm furthering my studies at the University of St. John's in the United States of America. I wish to respond as follows regarding a decision that has been taken by the state of California. Understand it's also a decision that is considered by quite a number of other states in the world. One, I feel that we're dropping the ball at a very crucial time. We know for a fact that quite a number of people in the adult population still have not been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. And we know for a fact that those are the people who are worst hit by COVID-19. And I feel that those are the people that we should be concentrating all our resources. Those are the people that we should be concentrating all our energies to get them vaccinated against COVID-19. Of course, we acknowledge that some of them have elected not to be vaccinated for a whole range of reasons, religious reasons, and so on and so forth. But I feel that to quickly jump and focus on our little ones, those ones who cannot defend themselves, those ones who cannot express themselves, those ones who cannot, fend off themselves, I feel that is quite unfair to them. Is it perhaps that we see them as soft targets? I'm not really sure about that one, but I feel that all our efforts needs to be intensified to ensure that we get as many people as possible vaccinated against COVID-19. That is the first point. The second point that I wish to make, it relates to the legal sentiments. We know for a fact that in the legal arena, the strength of our legal system, or the usefulness of our legal system, is best at play when we see how it interacts with those ones who are vulnerable, those ones whom we consider to be the weakest members of our communities. In this particular case, we're looking at our little ones. We cannot get all our adult population fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Yet we want to get the little ones, those ones who cannot fend for themselves, those ones who cannot fight for themselves, we want to get them vaccinated. Even in our culture, an adult person is expected to lead by example. Even when an assailant enters your premises, as an adult person, you are expected to deal with that assailant. And then once you are done, or once this assailant is done with you, that's when it will proceed to your children, or to those ones that you lead. I feel that it defies all rationale what we want to do now. Thank you.
There you are, Marvelous. Like we said, that's his personal opinion. He's talking about, the California mandatory vaccination program for kids. There you are.
aiwa apo tiri kunzwa kubva kune munyarikani wedu ari kurambazve achienderera mberi vachitaurawo pfungwa dzavo pamusoro pedanho riri kutorwa iro nagavhena wecalifornia vari kuti ivo vana vechidiki ngavabayiwe nhomba vanoda kudzokera kuzvikoro, otherwise havapindi muzvikoro. So that is what we were hearing there, but we're proceeding to look at some of the issues that are currently affecting Zimbabwe. We saw yesterday the president giving his SONA reports in parliament, and there was a lot of reaction that came in from different parliamentarians who were actually at the event. I heard Morgan Komichi of MDCT saying something, but there were also other parliamentarians who weighed in on the president's speech. Let's hear from one of them.
And one of them is Lwazi Spanda. She's a member of parliament as well in Zimbabwe. Let's listen to what she's saying here, Marvelous.
Kwini ndingakukhuthaza urhulumente ngendawo zamarethi
mna urhulumente kuya ngami mna bengicabanga ukuthi nxa bengathi beli-dollarize idola so that isimo sibe right kumuntu wonke osezimbabwe ngoba kakhe sezithizi isimo sibi asifuni ukuqambelana amanga ukudla of course abantu bakutholile emakhaya but ngingasothi bahambe bethenga ichukela bethenga amasepa izinto ziyadura ngoba imali abalayo ezandleni ungathi bahambe ebhenki ethi adinga imali iqueue yangikhona umuntu kumele avuke ngo-4 o'clock yabo abantu abadala bathola kumazawo zamapentsheni umuntu ahle ahambe elalele elayinini khona bazathola ibhondi elilutshwane simo sibi sibe.
So Lwazi is saying here, Lwazi Spanda is saying, the situation is really bad in Zimbabwe, Marvelous, because people are looking for money and there's no money in the banks, and they're spending a lot of time looking for money instead of working. So she's very disgruntled, and she's saying, whatever this president said does not have a direct impact on this kind of a particular issue and other issues as well. So she's not happy there.
Apo tanga tiri kunzwa vamwe mudare vachitaurawo pfungwa dzavo vachiti zvanga zviri kutaurwa nemutungamiri wenyika vaEmerson Mnangagwa muparamende kwavari ivo hazvina kunyatsovabata sezvo zviri kuitika zvakasiyana nezvavanga vari kutaura, vachitaura ivo nyaya panyaya yekuti iyo vanhu vari kushaya mari dzekushandisa nezvimwewo. Uyezve takaona vaMorgan Komichi veMBCT vachitaurawo pfungwa dzavo pamusoro pemazwi akataurwa ivo navaMnangagwa.
Pane pakanakawo pane paasirira panyanya kupandawana pasara pandachiexperience pangabuda inzvimbo inoenderana nemararamiro avana veZimbabwe. Upenyu hweZimbabwe hwaoma in terms of mari dzatinowana kumabasa. Macivil servants edu zvino ari kuwana mari iri below the poverty datum line. Poverty datum line iri pamusoro pe$40,000 and vashandi vakawanda vari mucivil service vanowana mari iri pasi peizvozvo. Saka izvozvo zvinhu zvasiyiwa and gare zviri tine marecords neinformation yekuti muZimbabwe munomu vanhu vari kurarama paupenyu hwakaomesesa hunonziko pachirungu extreme abject poverty vapa 49%. Kureva kuti vanhu vari kutambura vari kuwanda. Saka mashoko apresident akachifanira kutarisana neizvozvo kuti vanhu vangaitwa sei kuti vararame iko zvino zvinhu zvakaoma zvikuru paupenyu hwavanhu.
Panyaya dzekugadzirwa kwemitemo
ndinowirirana kuti ipapo pabuda zvakanaka zvikuru. Pane mitemo yatanga takatarisira makore osa anoenderana nokuenzanisa constitution yedu yeZimbabwe nemitemo inoshanda kumapurisa. Wabuda kuti bhiri richauya mashandiro achaita masoja nevanhu veZimbabwe. Bhiri iroro riri kuuya Independence Complaints Commission iri kuuya, bhiri riri kuuya and also bhiri riri kutarisana prisons riri kuuya zvakare. Izvo zvinotipa kuti zvinhu zvinake. Ranyanya kundibata moyo ranga rakamirwa nevana veZimbabwe ndere devolution, nokuti vana veZimbabwe vange vachida kuti maprovincial councils achitanga kushanda and mari dzinoenda kumaprovince dzichienda pamutemo and vakasarudzwa kuti vamirire maprovinces vange vachitanga manje kushanda pamutemo. Izvo zvichaita kuti zvinhu zvinake, zvinhu zvifambe. So izvozvo ndizvo zvinhu zvabuda zvakanaka tinotenda.
Siyamuzwa lapha ke ukomiti uyakhuluma sibili ukuthi kuyini obona ngani kungalungiswa ke nguhulumende. Lokukhulunywa ke ngumongameli Emmerson Mnangagwa. So sizaletha ke esilungu sizwe ukuthi ke uthini. Marvelous, hold on there. We've got another message from Komichi. Let's hear it.
The cost of living is very high. The prices in Zimbabwe, they are very high. It's unaffordable. The salaries have been eroded, and civil servants are suffering quite a lot. Generally, people of Zimbabwe are currently in pain. I therefore expected the SONA today to cover those areas. I didn't hear that. So I would probably urge the government to relook at the fate of the people. The life of the people is very difficult. People cannot live in Zimbabwe. So that area was not attended to. So as far as I'm concerned, we should do more in the area that deals with the livelihoods of the people of Zimbabwe.
How about on the legislative agenda?
That was a positive sign. We've been wishing for some time to have the constitution of Zimbabwe aligned to the laws of the country, especially the security sector. The legislative agenda covered the security sector alignment in terms of the Independence Complaints Commission. That is very positive. The alignment of the Prison Service Act, that is also very positive. The major one, which is going to affect the people of Zimbabwe, people have been waiting, has been the devolution bill. Many people wanted this bill to be put in place. It has taken too long. I remember during the first regime under Mugabe, there was nothing that was done. Nothing was done around that area. However, this time around, I'm happy to hear that this parliamentary session that's coming in, which has been open today, is going to be dealing with devolution of bill, so which is really quite welcome.
Loke umnumzana Morgan Committee okhulumayo khonapha ke Marvelous ukhuluma sibile ngezinto ezimbalwa esizibonayo la. Okunye kwangikhona khuluma ngakho ikhona ukuthi kumele kulungiswe imithetho yelizwe ihambelana lesisekelo sombuso welizwe lokho kuthiwa ke i-constitutional alignment. So uthi ke okumele kukhangelwe kezomvikela i-security sector ukuthi kumele imiswe njani. Kuzobuya ezokhetho ukuthi kumele lakho kukhangelwe khonokho ngoba ukhetho luqakathekile kule Zimbabwe. So nxa ukuthi ungalungiswanga ke kuyahlupha kakhulu. So ama-electoral reforms kona lawa ukhuluma ngawo sithi kumele kulungiswe konke lokhu. Lakho ukuthi kulabantu abasejele kule enye ibill elungiswayo. Abesithi umthabise kakhulu ukuthi umongameli ukhulume nge-devolution bill le elungiswayo. So uthi ke abantu kudala bakumelela khonokho ukuthi kulungiswe ezabelweni into abantu bazibuse kodwa ungazani uhulumende kade engadosi kahle. Kodwa wathi kulokhophe khona ukuthi uhulumende kakhulumanga ngemali zezisebenzi ukuthi izisebenzi kumele zime njani. So uthi umnanga khona lapha agonxeke khona bazangatshaye kuhle khona Marvelous.
Aiwapo tanga tiri kunzwa kubva kuna vaMorgan Committee veMDCT yavamunzura vachitaurawo pfungwa dzavo pamusoro pezvakataurwa nemutungamiri wenyika vaEmmerson Mnangagwa nezuro. Tavaona vachitaura zvakawanda chaizvo asi vari kuti ivo chanyanyovafadza pane zvakataurwa inyaya yedevolution. Asi regai tiende zvakare kune mumwe mudare anga ari pachiitiko ichi tichinzwawo kuti ivo vakaona sei zvakataurwa muparamende navaMnangagwa.
Put into place. So we are happy but now yes need that bill richange put in place. Not my child rights. My child rights bills are very, very important because a lot of times people say we need democracy and we also need my rights to also not to be violated. So I cannot tend to not be so my child rights bill don't get yekurima vataura kuti vasikana vechidiki nevakomana vechidiki ngavapinde mune zvekurima nekuti opportunity yacho iripo. Vataura zvakare vakatizvo pane nyaya dzedrug abuse vakataura kuti vari kuseta interministerial committee ichange ichiluka into that. So interministerial committee yo ichadetsera kuti vaite malasting solution kana kuti vaone kuti zvaninde dzipi nzira dzavangapinda nadzo kuti vavharise nyaya iyoyo yedrug abuse. Saka ndoona kunge ndozvavanyanyotaura pamusana pevechidiki ende tinotenda kuti vakwanisa kupindira panyaya iyo nekuti zvechokwadi drug abuse yanesa munyika muno ende tinotenda zvikuru nokuti vakwanisa kugadzira that interministerial committee inosetawo that. I think ndozvo zvavanyanyotaura pamusana pevechidiki. Say that it was quite important for young people to be involved in farming since there are opportunities that are already there for them to get involved. And you also talked about the grain reserves, that there is great need for young people to also contribute towards also making sure that there is food security within the country. The second issue he talked about was the issue of drug abuse. He said that now they've set up an inter-ministerial committee which is going to look at issues to do with drug abuse. I think right now we've had a very great surge when it comes to issues to do with the drug abuse. I think we're having it every single day and it's quite a scare and it's quite very, very unfortunate for us as a country. But also the president setting upon that interministerial committee, it also helps young people also to also see that at least drug abuse is actually a great scare and there's need for young people also to also get some interventions. The president promised lasting solutions to drug abuse. I think those are some of the issues that he talked about for young people. And I think it's quite important for us to also get involved in that.
There you are, Marvelous. That is Honorable Tatenda Mavetera. She's a member of parliament. So she's talking about some of the issues that the president raised in his State of the National Address. And one of the issues esibona ukuthi akhulume ngazo ukulima ukuthi abantu bayakhangwa ukuthi balime ukuthi yikho phela okuqakathekileyo ukuthi abantu belime kwenzakele khonokho kunjalo. Okunye njalo ke uthi ke ukhulume nge-drug abuse ukuthi kulabantwana abaningi kakhulu abasebetshaya izidakamizwa ngakho ke khonokho ukuthi kuyabahlupha kakhulu. Kodwa ke nxa sokubuya ezokulima njalo uthi ke abatsha khanya sebengena emaplazini abanye sebezisebenza besiza konke khonokho ke okwe-agriculture okutshiyeneyo. Waphinde wakhuluma ke nge-child protection ukuthi qakathekile kakhulu ukuthi ube ngumongameli nxa kukhangelwa ke ukuprotecta abantwana ukuthi abantwana bavikelwa njani. Waphinde wakhuluma ukuthi ke umongameli ubethe udaba lokuthi kumele kube le-grain reserves. Kudala Marvelous abantu amadwala esancwebeka kwakule nto okuthiwa yisiphala senkosi lapho kwakugcinwa khona amabele nxa ungaba le-drought kucutshwe khonapho kusetshenziswe kunjalo ke Marvelous.
Aiwa apo tanga tiri kunzwa kubva kune vamwe vadare vanga vari pachiitiko chakaitika nezuro muparamende vachitaura ivo pamusoro pezvatakaona zvichiturwa nemutungamiri wenyika vaEmerson Mnangagwa. Tinoona kuti vanga vari kutaura vadare vedu vataura kuti ivo vakafadzwa nezvakataurwa nemutungamiri wenyika, vachiti mutungamiri wenyika akakurudzira kuti vechidiki vapinde munyaya dzekurima. Vakataura zvakare kuti vari kufara kuti pakataurwa ipo nyaya yedambudziko revana vechidiki vari kushandisa zvekudhakwa zvinodhaka. Tichinzwa apa kuti mutungamiri wenyika vakati pachaitwa interministerial committee ichange iri kutaridza nyaya iyoyi yekukwira kwaita vana vechidiki vari kushandisa zvinodhakwa. Uyezve vakataura ivo kuti pane mimwe mitemo iri kunzi icharandudzwa yakanyanyonangana nekushungurudzwa kwevana uyezve nekurodzwa kwevana vasati vabva zera. Saka vanga vari kuti aiwa izvi zvakavafadza pane zvakataurwa navaMnangagwa.
Yes, marvelous. At the same time, we have heard a lot concerning reforms that the MTCT is talking about. So they are saying that there should be some major electoral reforms before the next general elections or even by-elections. And one of the officials was quoted by Studio 7 as saying that maybe they will push for, a situation where there won't be any elections, so that there are reforms first and all those kind of things. So we talked to some of the officials in the MTCT who said, no, that's not the case. What they're thinking of is actually pushing for the reforms and having the elections. So here is Douglas Monzora speaking about, having this kind of issue concerning electoral reforms.
Whether if Mnangagwa and his government refuse to implement reforms, we will take part in the 2023 elections. Well, we are not conditioned that way as the MDCT. We believe in the Chinese saga, fight 100 battles and win 100 victories. So why should we budget for failure? We are going to push for these reforms and we are going to get them. And right now, our mentality is focused on getting these reforms. We know how to get them. We will get them through dialogue, and this dialogue will be inclusive, genuine, and unconditional. Therefore, as regards what will happen if certain things don't happen or happen in 2023, we are unable to postulate. For example, we are not able to say which reforms would we have got and which reforms would we not have attained. And at that point in time, we will have to make a judgment of our own. But right now, we are not budgeting for failure. We are very confident that we will be able to get some of these reforms, if not the majority. Just to put you into perspective, the MDCT has already drafted a document. We call it the Dialogue Resolve Document. There are certain principles that we as negotiators know and live by. One of the principles is that we don't negotiate in public. Negotiation in public is not the best thing to do, and it's not the most effective thing to do. But what we did put to the President General is the need for dialogue, and the reason for the dialogue, the major reason for the dialogue is to do those things that will result in the betterment of the lives of the Zimbabweans. It may be reforms, it may be other measures and so on, but it must be calculated to improve the lives of Zimbabweans. And this dialogue must not generate any elite act. In other words, it must not be an agreement between ZANU-PF and MDCT. That is an elite act. It must be organic. It must involve the people of Zimbabwe. It must involve all the stakeholders. So again, in that paper, we did suggest timelines to the president by which the reforms could have been done.
Lokhu umnumzana Douglas Monzora ukhuluma-ke ngakhona ukuthi kumele kwenziweni ulungiselelo ukhetho lolu oluzayo. So-ke Marvelous, lapho uyakhuluma uthi abakwazi okuzaphuma khonokho abakwenzayo, kodwa-ke uthi bafuna ukuphusha njengakhona okwenziwa ngama-Chinese ukuthi nxa ukuthi uphusha kumele uphume lokukodwa kumbe uphume lokubili kumbe kuthathu phakathi kwekuyi-5. So ukuthi-ke abasoze begive up ngakhona kuke kwama-electoral reforms. So ukuthi bona bazasebenza gadalala ukuze ukuthi kube lokhetho olubalulekileyo kweleZimbabwe. Ukuthi kwamanje-ke okuhluphayo ukuthi akuzwakali lokuthi kuya ngaphi konke lokhu, kodwa bayazama ngemizamo yabo bonke yonke ukuthi kube lokhetho olubalulekileyo. So ukuthi kodwa kalaqiniso lokuthi umongameli Emmerson Mnangagwa uza kulungisa lokhu kumbe kasoze kulungisa. So kafunanga ukuthi anike i-timeline kunjalo.
Aiwapo tiri kunzwa vaDouglas Monzora vebato reMDCT yavanotungamira vachitaurawo pfungwa dzavo pamusoro pezvavari kutaura ivo kuti vacharamba vachiedza kuti pave nekurandudzwa kwemitemo yakanangana nesarudzo, vachitaurawo zvakare kuti vanoshuvira kuti vawanewo vachiita nhaurirano nehurumende yavaMnangagwa munguva inotevera. Asi izvi hazvireve kuti pari zvino vachabva vamira zvese zvavari kuita, vatiwo vachamboshandisa sezvinoita maChinese kuti uku vanenge vachitaura ukuwo vachiedza kupusha kuti malaws awanikwe iwo achichinja. Asi regai timbonzwa zviri kuitika kunzvimbo yeWaterloo Farm kuVhuti kuMashonaland West, uko mutori wedu wenhau Nunurai Jena akawanikwa iye achikwanisa kuenda kunzvimbo iyoyi. Apo tiri kuona vamwe vagari vepanzvimbo yeWaterloo Farm vakawanikwa ivo vachidzingwa vari kutogara pari zvino mumigwagwa. Regai tinzwe kubva kune mumwe mudzimai ari kuchiitiko ichochi kuWaterloo.
Chibage chimwe chakatsvira umba, mvura hapana, mvura ikochera namanepu chaiwo hatina kana yekugeza, nyange zvekudya zvacho pano parodhi parikufamba mota aita kutotyira kana vanhu.
Vanhu vakasiya vasina upenyu zvenga zviri peta pakapedza chituku ende kwatanga kudoneka zvinhu zvenyaya.
Saka imakapisirwawo chiimi
isizvo nhumba dzese nenhumba yarumangu yese doneka.
Saka izvezvi makutogara muno musango umu?
Kugara kakusango kuti asi ndiri mukadzi womhondoro, mukadzi womhondoro, handina kurorewa nemunhu. Aiwa mhondoro chaiyo.
Ndimi munonzimai ani mimi kana kuti kugwana?
Inini mabongo.
Imimi zita renyu? Zita renyu?
Tarini.
Zita renyu imimi munonzani?
Enara.
Munonzani?
Enara.
Oh, makazvarwa rini? Makazvarwa rini?
Ndiri pachitupa changu.
Saka maani makore mangani?
Ari pachitupa ukaroi.
Ari pachitupa ukaroi?
Chitupa ndinacho. Kana ukaroi ndakati arima yangu hapana kana chandiziya.
Asi kamakore hamuna kuazivere kuti mune makore mangani kuti makazvarwa rini? Makazvarwa rini?
Mazuva.
Mazuva ka.
Sokuti amai yangu ndakawa.
Okay.
Angu makore ari pachitupa. Nitapuwa chitupa nivawa.
Okay, mama. There you are, marvelous. I think you can hear what the grandmother is saying. There is a lot of stuff, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, very interesting. She is actually saying that she's the wife of a Mondoro, a spirit medium. And then when our reporter Nunurai Jena asked her that, how old are you? She said she doesn't know. The answer is in Karoi, which is near where she is. It's on her birth certificate, but what she knows is that she's very upset that her home where she lived and that place where her sacred place where her husband, who's supposedly a Mondoro, his home was destroyed within her house. So she's saying she was married by a spirit medium So she is not very happy, but she was very jovial about her age. She kept referring that, look, I don't know, but all that you can find out on my birth certificate, it's in Karowe.
Lapho ke simzwile umuntu ekhuluma khonapha esithi ke ugogo sekhulile. Uyakhuluma uyakhala sibili ugogo lapha uthi basuswe eplazini eWaterloo khona ngale. Besuswa nje uthi batshiselwe impahla lokunye okutshiyeneyo. So ugogo sibili uyakhala okunye okumangalisayo. Uthi bahlala egangeni kodwa yena uthi umfazi kumbe ikhosikazi lalokho kuthiwa yimondoro. Uthi uthi phela ugogo oqakathekileyo kakhulu. Ungabona ugogo sekhuluma kunje kungani kuyahlupha kodwa uthi kumzwisa ubuhlungu kakhulu uthi uhlala egangeni ugogo. So singazi ukuthi udaba lolu luyahamba njani kodwa ungazani luyamhlupha okunye okumangalisayo. Kodwa kayisibafisela ukuthi kuzabalungela ukuzabalungela singazi ukuthi kuhamba njani. Ngena khonapha Marvelous.
Taona zvakare vamwe madzimai vechidiki vari kutotaura kuti vana vavo vakazvarwa uyezve vachitori vacheche. Ndumurwa vakatowanikwawo vachirasirwa panze ipapo kuWaterloo Farm, vachitaura zvakare kuti panzvimbo iyi hapana mvura yekugeza, hapana mvura yekuwacha manapukeni, uyezve hapana mvura kana yekutoti vanhu vawanikwawo vachiita utsanana hunodiwa panguva ino yeCovid-19. Saka vaenderera mberi vachiti havasi kunyatsoziva kuti chii chiri kuitika nekuti vakangosvikonzi taakutowanikwa tichikuburitsai panzvimbo iyi. Vakataura kuti zvimwe midziyo yavo imwe yakawanikwawo ichipiswa, saka pari zvino havatorina kana chekupfeka, havana kana zvekupfekedza vana, uyezve vakangokwanisa kubuda nezvishoma zvavakakwanisa kubuda nazvo kubva panzvimbo iyoyi yeWaterloo Farm kuvhuti. Asi tinoona kuti izvi zviri kushorwa nevazhinji, uyezve tichange tiri kuramba tichiteera nyaya iyi kuti tigozonzwa kuti zvazoitwa sei vana ava vakazodini, nekuti tiri kuona kuti pachiitwa ichi pane vana vechidiki vamwe vari kutowanikwa ivo vakawanikwa vari panze ipapo, vana amai, vana gogo seavo vatabva kutaura navo vawanikwawo vachitaurawo zviri kuitika pari zvino kwavari panzvimbo iyoyi yeWaterloo Farm kuvhuti kunova iko kuMashonaland West. Saka ndo zvimwe zvezvimwe zvatichange tiri kutarisa kuti zvoitwa sei panguva ino yeCovid-19, tichiona kuti hurumende inokurudzira iyo kuti vanhu ngavagare vakapfeka mamaski, vanhu ngavawanikwe ivo vachibayiwa nhomba dzeCovid-19, uyezve vagare vakatsarukana. Saka hatina kumboona mumwe anga akapfeka mamaski panzvimbo iyoyi. Regai, over to you, Gibbs.
Yes, Marvelous. We also have other issues like, during these COVID times, there are difficulties that are faced by girls, women, and so forth. So one of the issues maybe is sanitary pads. There are some people who are actually helping in that respect. And one of them is a guy who comes from Lupane, Communal Lands in Material North. Let's hear what he did recently for girls in Lupane.
Mina igama lami ngumfundo Sibanda Kapeni, ngizalwa esabelwe esigabeni saselupanda eLupane. Engikwenzileyo ngomvulo mhla ka-27 September ngiyenelise ukudonate i-sanitary pads ezikolweni ezingu-7 ezigoqela iPhumakanye Primary School, iSpopoma, iLihlo, Mkhombo Primary School, Lupanda Secondary School, Regina Mundi Primary School and Regina Mundi Secondary School. Lokho ngikwenziswa ukuthi ngiyazi ukubana abantwana abahlala emaphandleni abalayo indlela yokuthola i-sanitary pads. Bagcina besebenzisa into ezingahlanzekanga ezigoqela amalembu, amahlamvu, into ezitshiyeneyo. So lolu luhlelo engiza continue ngalo, engizalwenza izigaba zonke zaselupane. Ngiyabonga kakhulu.
Yes, Marvelous. That is Mr. Kapeni. That is Mfundo Sibanda Kapeni, is from Lupane. So he says what drove him to actually do this is that he has seen that some of the girls don't have any means of using, normal sanitary pads. So he went around, looked for them, and he handed them over to some girls in Lupane recently, and that is September. So he says, you know, some were using pieces of cloths. There were some of them were even using leaves. So he says this is a very big problem in Zimbabwe.
Apo tanga tiri kunzwa kubva kune mumwe munyarikani wedu vari kuti ivo vakaita ivo chirongwa chekuti vakwanise kunge vachibatsira vana vari muzvikoro kulupane kwavanogara nemasanitary pads. Vakati ivo vamwe vasikana vemuzvikoro umu vanga vari kushandisa machira, vamwe vachitoita kushandisa vatingati mashizha. Izvo zvakamubata mwoyo chaizvo mukomana vechidiki ava, vakakwanisa kunge vachiunganidza zvikwanisirwa zvemasanitary pads, vakaenda vakanokwanisa kuwanikwa ivo vachipawo vamwe vasikana vechidiki, vana vechikoro kulupane kwavanobva. Vanga vari kutarisa kuti iri idambudziko guru riri kuwanikwa richisanganwa nemadzimai uyezve nevasikana vechidiki muzvikoro.
Yes, marvelous. Maybe let's look at one of the issues that we touched here partly, which was the issue of the preparations for elections. So I spoke to Witness Dube of the MDCT. You know, you are saying, you know, they don't want these elections to be postponed. What they're looking for are reforms. So let's hear exactly what he's saying about this issue.
As the MDCT was not saying that we are calling for the postponement 2020. What we are calling for the prioritization of the electoral reforms agenda ahead of any election. This is what we have said, that we must, as a country, not able to make elections without the electoral reforms. By the electoral reforms, we mean the leveling of the political field election, so that we do not have the same contested outcomes which affect the legitimacy of the elected leader. This is a position that is, that has been prayed for by many political players, including, presidential contestants in the 2018 elections. Notably Mr. Nelson Chamisa. But this is not a position that is new. Remember when we had NERA, we actually pushed for electoral reforms through the NERA agenda, and one of the gains from that push was the biometric voter registration process. So we are hoping to intensify in the coming days, to intensify calls and all actions for the leveling of the playing field for all political players, not just for MDCT, but for all political players, because we believe that the problem that we have with our elections is that they've always been held under conditions that do not meet the free, fair, and credible bar.
There you are, marvelous. So he's saying, these electoral reforms are very necessary, and they're not calling for, the boycott or not for the country not to conduct any elections.
Aiwapo tiri kunzwa mumwe munyarikani vedu veku-MDCT vachitaura ivo kuti kurandudzwa kwemitemo yesarudzo kwakakosha pari zvino, saka ndo zvavari kuda kuti vawanikwe ivo zvichiitika munguva inotevera. Asi tisinganyatsonzwa kuti vanga vari kuti chii chaizvo, saka tichangoramba tichienderera mberi tichinzwa kuti tinganzwe here kuti vari kuti chii. Gibbs.
Yes, yeah.
Esikutshoyo ukuthi akulungisiswe zonke izinto eziphathelane lokhetho ukwenzela ukuthi nxa ukhetho lusenzakala lube lukhetho oluzaphumisa impumela eqotho, impumela engafaki abanye abadlali emidlalweni wepolitiki phambili kulabanye, enganiki abanye esingathi ngamathuba angezeleleyo kumbe aphambili ukuthi baphume kuyilo abadla umbutho wokhetho. Sikhangela kakhulu ukuthi sisiya kuma-elections ka-2013 sasile NERA, i-National Electoral Reform Agenda,
eyafuqa kabanzi kwaze kwafika ekuthini sithole i-biometric voter registration. So sikhangelele ukuthi nxa singafuqa kathesi nxa kungenzeka inyanga ithi iphela lokho esikufunayo sokwenzekile, ukhetho kalwenzakali ngenyanga ezayo. Nxa kungathatha umnyaka olandelayo kawenzi, kodwa esikutshoyo ukuthi wonke umuntu uyakwazi ukuthi eZimbabwe sikhala ngokuthi nxa kusiba lokhetho soluphelile kuyathiwa hayi belungekho free, belungekho fair, belungekho credible. Asikhangelisiseni-ke imgoqo efanana lokuthi mhlawumbe kurejistwa njani ama-ballot papers alungiswa njani, aphathwa njani, kubalwa njani, njalo kumidiya lapha bayavunyelwa yini bonke abantu ukuthi baphume bekhuluma begaya ukhetho. Layo yonke imithetho nje ephathelane lokhetho, ukubuthana kwabantu, ngubani ovunyelwayo sikhathi bani, nokuthi kukhulunywani kwenziwani, abantu bengalamgoqo. Yikho esikutshoyo thina ukuthi akulungisiswe konke lokho singakabi lokhetho. Lokho yinto yakhalelwa ngubaba uMorgan Tsvangirai, leyo yinto ekade ikhalisa umnumzana uChamisa phuma kukhetho lika-2018. Leyo yinto ekade ikhalisa even yona i-Election Resources Center namhlanje esiphuma isithi thina ngokubizela ukuthi kasikhuthazana neni ekulungisiseni lokhu, sesinjengabantu abathi bona asifuni ukhetho. Kukathi hatshi, ukhetho sithi kalwenzeke noma yinini nxa siqeda nje ukuthi silungise zonke lezi zinto. Njalo kumele sizilungise sikhangelele ukuthi 2023 yiwo umnyaka okuhlelwe ngawo ukuthi kube lokhetho.
So what he's saying is that there's need definitely for these electoral reforms. So he's talking about the role of the media. He's talking about even the role of the public, me and you. How should we conduct ourselves towards these elections? So he says, there's need to follow the SADC guidelines. We know what the SADC wants. So at the end of the day, he's saying this is what the late Morgan Tsvangirai was fighting for. This is what Nelson Chamisa is fighting for. This is what all other opposition parties are fighting for. So let it be, and it should be done before the elections. So they are not necessarily calling for a boycott or for the country not to conduct any elections in 2024.
Aiwapo tiri kunzwa bato reMDCT yavamunzura vari kutaura ivo kuti ivo shuro yavo ndeyekuti mitemo kana kuti irandudzwe yesarudzo, uyezve vari kuti ivo izvi ndo zvanga zviri kurwirwa navaMorgan Tsvangirai, ndo zviri kurwirwawozve navaNelson Chamisa nevamwewo vari munyika vanoita zvematongerwo enyika. Vakataura zvakare kuti havasi kuti ivo sarudzo ngadzisaitwa badzi, asi vari kuda kuti pawanikwe ivo pachirandudzwa mitemo yesarudzo ichienderana nezvinoikanwa neSADC nemamwewo mapato anoona nezvenyaya idzodzi dzesarudzo.
Yes, we've got our guest, Mr. Busani Mbusontini. So he's going to give us a summary of some of the things that we're talking about today. And he's an independent social and political commentator. Welcome to the program, Mr. Ntini, and we're towards the end of the program.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Dube and Dadwet Marvelous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, looking at electoral reforms in Zimbabwe, is it possible to really have tangible electoral reforms?
It is possible if there is a will, political will. But like I think we always say, any reforms around elections means that ZANU is pretty much taking themselves out. Any of the reforms, I think, any reforms that could be created will make things hard for ZANU PF to win the elections. So that's where the problem is. If it was in their favor, I believe that they will implement the reforms, but any reform that will be implemented will not work in their favor. So they will not implement those reforms.
Marvelous.
Tiri kunzwapo munyarikani wedu vatinavo pano vantini vari kutaura ivo kuti kurandudzwa kwemitemo yesarudzo kunogona kuitika kana vanokwanisa kunge vachirandudza mitemo iyi vaine chido chekuita, asi vari kutaura ivo kuti asi semaonero avo ivo vanoona kunge bato reZANU nehurumende havasi kukwanisa kuti vaite izvi nechimbi chimbi, nekuti vari kuona kunge vakarandudza mitemo iyi havazokwanisa kukunda misarudzo dziri kutevera, nekuti vari kuti ivo dai zano kana hurumende yaiona kuti zvaizoibatsira kuti varandudze mitemo iyoyi yemaelections vangadai vakatozviita nechimbi chimbi.
Akusipele ngesintu sibili khona kwade ukhuluma ngakho babuthini uthini lapha?
No, ebengikutsho ukuthi umbono wami babadube ukuthi ama-reform ama-election engenzakala nxa ukuthi iphathi eyiyo ebambileyo ilesifiso sokuthi lokhu kwenzakale. Kodwa inkinga ekhona ukuthi ama-reform amaningi okukhulunywa ngawo ngama-reform angathi ngafakwa azakwenza ukuthi izanu iphume embusweni. So angiboni ukuthi izanu izakufaka lokhu ikwazi ukuthi impumela yakhona izabakhipha embusweni.
So what should be done then?
We are 40 some years later, we are uhluphe sikulo yona lokuthi sesile 40 years under izanu PF rule, ama reform efunakala engenzakali. So uhlupho lweZimbabwe kunzima, but nxa ungalama election reform, ama election wonke azaba disputed. Nxa ama election disputed, iZimbabwe aziqhubeke phambili. Kumele ukuthi ube lesikhathi ukuthi abantu bekhangelane emehlweni bethi hayi, ake sibophena amabhanti silungise izinto. Yebo, i-opposition ngathathela izanu okwamathema athize, kodwa izanu kumele laye i-reform from within. Nxa ukuthi kusitsho ukuthi iphume kupower ngendlela yokuthi ifaka ama-reform aqakathekileyo, I think kulungile. Engxenye bengaphenduka ngelilanga seke baba yi-opposition labo, kodwa bengaqhubeka besenza abakwenzayo, iZimbabwe akulanto ezalo.
So-ke ukhetho kumele lube khona kumbe lungabi khona. Kulabanye phela bathi hayi ngcono kupostpone ukhetho kwenziwe esikhathini esilandelayo.
Hayi, ukhetho uba khona kumele lube khona ngoba nje ku-constitution. Abathi ungabe lo khetho kabakhulume ukuthi bafuna ukutshintsha i-constitution kuqala. Kodwa ukhetho vele kumele lube khona. Yebo, kuzaba ama-disputed results, kodwa iqiniso ukuthi akube lama-organization anjenge-AU, ama-SADC, i-European Union, kumbe i-United Nations engenelayo yenze ukuthi ama-election ayenzakala eZimbabwe abuya ka-2023 abe free and fair. Ukuthi lo winileyo kube nguye winileyo. Kasikhangeleni izek ukuthi kanti independent yini, objective yini. Asikhangeleni khathesi ukurejistwa kwabantu ukuvota kuvulekile yini ngendlela okumele kube yikho. Kasikhangeleni ukuthi impumela ye-voters roll i-voters registration ezakala phezulu izasipha yini i-voters roll epheleleyo, e-accurate and complete. Yikho ekumele kukhulunywe ngakho. Wenze nxa kuhanjwa kuma-election ngo-2023 kungabi lefene phakathi.
Ufake ngasikhiwa briefly khonokho.
No, in my view, I think we need organizations such as the African Union, we need the SADC, we need the United Nations to come in and help us, so that when we have elections in 2023, elections have to happen because it is in our constitution that every 5 years there has to be those elections. Those that want elections not to happen, then they need to start talking to people about making amendments to the constitution. But if the elections are to go forward, we ask for organizations such as AU, SADC, even the United Nations to come in and help us to make sure that when the elections happen, they'll happen on an even, playing field, and the voters, whatever the voters say will be respected by all the parties.
Thank you very much. I think on that note, Marvelous, we have come to the end of our show. We wish to thank all our correspondents in Zimbabwe who actually sent us videos, very lovely videos for that matter. Thanks so much, Nurai Jena. Thank you so much, Thomas Chiripasi, Mlondo Rosendlovu, and others. We also wish to thank our guest this evening, Mr. Busani Busontini. He's a social and political commentator based here in USA. And then we had Witness Dube of the MTCT, who actually sent us information as well concerning these elections. Signing off from Maryland, this is Gibbs Dube saying good night, Zimbabwe.
Ini ndini Marvelous Mhlanganya uye ndichingotenda nemi vateereri vakateerera pari zvino. Ndiri muno muWashington ndichiti muve nezuva rakanaka uyezve neweekend yakanaka.